Hello race fans and welcome back to the land down under for the 2021 Australian Grand Prix. A bit strange to be having the Australian Grand Prix at this time of the year, but that doesn't mean that we won't see an exciting qualifying session in the land down under. And now let us turn to our practice report. After winning his first Grand Prix for Toyota and for himself, Keito Watanabe looked a bit on the back foot along with his teammate Marino Sato here on the streets of Albert Park. It was a hard weekend for these two, barely cracking outside the top 10. So it looks like it's going to be a bit of a snapback to reality for this team on this circuit. And now, breaking news from the weekend, Toyota Racing has signed a new deal with their long-term partner Salve, the medical and first aid brand provider for the team. And considering that Toyota looks to be on the rise, it seemed like a no-brainer to sign a new contract with this team. Heading into the news for upgrades, there was news that a durability upgrade was supposed to come in, but there were a lot of failures at the facility, especially with engine power as well, and ERS. Thankfully, though, the team managed to rectify the durability upgrade and have come out and said that they are in a good position to capitalize on the new aero and chassis regulations heading into the 2022 season. And also, rumors speculating that Sato's seat is in jeopardy and that Toyota are looking elsewhere for their second driver. Heading through into the hairpin of turn 15, now into turn 16, this very tight complex of corners. There's yellow flags at the end of the start-finish straight as Lando Norris puts up a 120.9 as Keito Watanabe on the line. That's Fernando Alonso! Fernando Alonso has an engine failure at the end of the start-finish straight. That's surely going to ruin his and Alpine's race as he pulls over to the side before qualifying has even really begun. And Watanabe finds himself in fourth. Heading now down towards the fast chicane of turns 11 and 12, and Keito Watanabe takes out the bollard, and tons of understeer through that corner. And he's down, he's still down, he set up two green sectors, but Watanabe, that fast left-right, turn 11, turn 12, really hampered his qualifying, and so he's going to have to probably go again if he wants to crack out and back into the top 10. And Watanabe heading into the final complex of corners. He's up by about 2.5 tenths, but he's losing time through turn 15. Into turn 16, to mount a bit of curb, it really unsettles the balance of the car, but he's made up about 3 tenths. Where's that going to place him on this grid? And it's only P12 for Keito Watanabe. Our race winner is looking to struggle with this car around Australia. And Marino Sato, his teammate, misses out on Q2 by 1/100th of a second. That is surely going to put a damper on his spirits. Heading now into turn 3, and he's a little wide through that corner. Heading to turn 4 now for the left-hander. Now we're into turn 5, and he mounts that really tall curve, and that really unsettles the balance of the car. It's really overcast as Keito Watanabe tries to go on a second flying lap after his first one was ruined by going wide into turn 4. He's up by about a second, but it doesn't really look like his time is going to improve as he heads towards the line. What's it going to be for Watanabe as he crosses the line? And it's only P12. It's not good for the Toyota driver out of qualifying, but he's in an AlphaTauri sandwich, so he's probably in the best position to score points against their rivals. Welcome along, race fans, and we're back in Australia after a year off to celebrate the Australian Grand Prix of 2021 here in Melbourne. Kind of weird to be at this venue this late into the season. Typically, it's a season opener, but that doesn't mean we're not going to experience some cracking racing here in the land down under. And here we are around the Albert Park circuit, a tight technical challenge for our drivers. 16 corners this circuit is, and very, very tight, very hard to overtake, and so the drivers are going to have to make use of those DRS zones throughout those 3 DRS zones that is throughout this circuit. It's going to be an amazing race if they can manage it. And here we are onto the grid after an amazing race that we had in Brazil last time out. It's going to be hard to match that hype, and especially for Toyota Racing, who look to be on the back foot after a monumental fairy tale story of a weekend. And Valtteri Bottas looks to have his own fairy tale. Can he finally take his driver's championship that he's been working so hard for throughout the season? The last 3 races hasn't gone his way, but if he wins today, he can surely cap off his dream of becoming 2021 champion of the world. Let's see how he can do on the front row. But grid penalties litter this grid once again. And here we are. Here's the starting grid for the Australian Grand Prix. And like I mentioned earlier, tons of grid penalties, but none for our championship leader, Valtteri Bottas, who finally takes the pole position that he deserves. But Charles Leclerc will surely be wanting to contest them. Hamilton P3, Perez P4, Sainz P5, Max Verstappen engine penalty in P6, both Aston Martin 7 and 8, Lando Norris 9th, and Watanabe is promoted to 10th. Kimi Raikkonen 11th, Gasly with a grid penalty along with Lando Norris, and Daniel Ricciardo also having to serve another penalty with Esteban Ocon 14th, Yuki Tsunoda 15th, Latifi 16th, Sato 17th, also having to serve an engine penalty himself, and Mazepin down the order as well, also on a penalty. Gio Vinazzi also on a penalty. Alonso is also back on the grid with an engine failure in qualifying, but that doesn't mean that he won't start last, because George Russell and Mick Schumacher, both more engine penalties, started at the back of the grid. What are these drivers going to do? Let's see what they can do. Here we go, the 5 red lights. We're back in Australia, back for racing. Let's see what this venue delivers. It's lights out and away we go. It's a great start for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, heading down into turn 1. And I think he's passed. Yes, he's passed the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas, and his teammate looks to see what he can do. And there goes Keito Watanabe down into turn 1, side by side with Stroll, with Verstappen. There was contact between the Aston Martin and Red Bull, but Watanabe's made up a few places. And now can he make up more as he goes down into turn 3, this tight corner. He's going outside. He puts the wheel on the grass. He's off the circuit. He's on the grass, and is surely going to lose more places. He's battling now with Esteban Ocon for P11, but that surely is the move done. But Watanabe, not the best start. Let's look through this race. He's side by side with Lando Norris, and I think he gets a little too greedy. He makes contact with the Aston Martin. It creates almost a chain reaction going into each other, and I think Sebastian Vettel, the other Aston Martin on the other side of Max Verstappen, definitely got some unneeded contact. He was looking good. He had a good start, but yeah, making contact with Verstappen, who is squeezed out by Stroll, who is thus being squeezed out by Keito Watanabe. But look at Leclerc. That's a beautiful start. Bottas getting bogged down, and Leclerc leads the Australian Grand Prix. Now behind Pierre Gasly. He needs to get by this AlphaTauri, not only for the solitary point, but also for the Constructors' Championship. He needs to get by both AlphaTauris, and if only one in front of him, he needs is down to start finish straight we go. No DRS on this lap, but here we go. Keito Watanabe down the inside of Gasly, and Gasly's been forced off as Watanabe forced Gasly onto the grass. Looking at the slow-mo replay, and I mean, it was a dive bomb, but Watanabe was already ahead of Gasly, and there's no contact, so I think that was just Gasly trying to avoid contact. But I mean, I think it's mostly his fault that he's on the grass. I think it's just a racing incident. No ill intent there, although it's a little convenient.
Honestly, I cannot believe him. I let him pass. Like, what's the point to do such a thing?
Oh dear. And now Watanabe's trying to close up to Sebastian Vettel, trying to get more points. Remember, they're 2 points down on AlphaTauri, so it's up to Watanabe with Sato way down the order. Can he do it? He's in the DRS of Sebastian Vettel, who also has DRS. He's going to pull the same move. Is he going to force him off as he did Gasly? No. Similar move, but Vettel stays on the AstroTurf, and Watanabe's in P9. And now, gaining on Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. What can he do? Diving into turn 9. There's contact. He makes contact with the rear, and that's front wing damage for sure for Keito Watanabe. And he's surely going to have to pit. That's going to put a damper on his race for sure, as he's now going to have to struggle through the fast right and left-hander. And oh, that's Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel is out of the Grand Prix with a DNF, and an engine failure. Smoke billows out of that engine as Watanabe makes contact with the back of his teammate. Vettel, his engine just pops. Tons of smoke billowing out of that Aston Martin. That surely is not how Sebastian Vettel would have wanted his race to go in Australia, running pretty well.
Yeah, failed. Something broke.
Yeah, not good. And Watanabe there confirms our suspicions, did get front wing damage and so pits. And this definitely is a reality check in comparison to the heights that he was in last weekend. And could this be him getting overconfident because of the good result he put in? I mean, while he was well in tune with Brazil, the car still isn't that great. So could he be overdriving it a little bit, trying to prove that Brazil wasn't a fluke? Possibly. But there's something to be said for just taking the car home and in its natural position, and forcing it could just end up causing more of a headache for him and the team, and now he's very far back from the pack. Back up to the front of the grid on lap 9, Bottas still hasn't been able to get by Charles Leclerc, so this is definitely going to impede his race. But now Leclerc is going to pit on lap 9, that is, and so Bottas now with clean air, and it looks like Lewis Hamilton is also pitting, so his teammate, and there's a big gap between. So can Bottas in clean air finally bridge a gap so when he pits he can get back in front of Leclerc? Let's see if the overcut's going to work, as now other drivers are pitting, and now with Watanabe on those mediums he has some time to make up. Through we go. He's now behind the hometown favorite of Daniel Ricciardo, who just pit onto a set of hard compound tires. It's similar to Brazil. They're going to get another fight between the McLaren and the Toyota. On the next lap, now Watanabe with DRS and ERS now, as more drivers are pitting, but looks like he's going to pull a move on the hometown favorite. Be careful, this crowd doesn't want to see their driver forced off, and he forces Ricciardo off this time as well. Ricciardo doesn't go as drastic as Gasly, but he still puts a wheel on the grass. Let's look at his replay, and yeah, I think this time this is more on Watanabe, not giving the space.
Is that who I think it was?
Yes.
Sore loser.
Oh dear. Here goes Watanabe now on Giovinazzi, but he has understeer to turn 12, and now Daniel Ricciardo just swoops in and takes the place, but now with the DRS, can he make a move into turn 13? Yes, he can. He forces Ricciardo out wide a little bit again. Takes a lot of curb. He's really exploiting the track limits here. Ricciardo comes back at him, diving now into the inside of turn 15, and now into turn 16. Watanabe's back in the lead. Ricciardo and Watanabe, a rivalry here seems to be forming between these two, and now with DRS, surely he'll create a gap as he's closing in on Antonio Giovinazzi and the points paying positions. And up ahead is Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri, and there goes Watanabe, the cleanest move he's done into turn 1, and now he can set his sights on the AlphaTauri. Now, Kimi Räikkönen combating against Yuki Tsunoda, and Yuki Tsunoda's line's been compromised by the elder statesman in Kimi Räikkönen, and now exposing him to Watanabe. Now into turn 15, Watanabe, surely he won't go around the outside of the AlphaTauri. He does with that superior grip, and there's contact between the two. Yuki Tsunoda goes into the side of him, and I think he really wanted to pit on that lap. So that surely has compromised his race. There's probably just a miscommunication. I don't know why his team didn't tell him that, and that move has compromised Yuki Tsunoda's race, as he has to replace his front wing after that contact with Keito Watanabe. So again, Toyota conveniently hindering AlphaTauri's race. And now closing in on Kimi Räikkönen into turn 6. Turn 9, pardon me. Can he make the move stick? And no, he doesn't. He's out on the grass again. Keito Watanabe really overdriving that car and leaving him exposed to by these mistakes. And now through the sweeping left-hander into turns 11 and 12. This has been Watanabe's weakest part of the circuit, but he manages to keep ahead of Ricciardo, and now he's got a great run on Kimi Räikkönen. They bang tire walls. Räikkönen doesn't see him as he bursts out of nowhere, diving into turn 13, and that's Watanabe back into P8 with a superb drive. And he's pitting. Watanabe's pitting again. So perhaps the lack of grip he's been displaying and the understeer that we've seen throughout this race is because of tire wear, and that's going to really affect his race, as most drivers around him are on a one-stop. And so Watanabe will have to really try as hard as he can to make those moves stick, and it's a slow pit stop from his crew. I don't think they were expecting him to pit. I think it was a last-minute pit decision from the pit wall, and so Watanabe now has even more of a task ahead of him, as now George Russell in the Williams, and he rejoins in P16, 6 places outside of the points. And now Watanabe closing in on George Russell on the better tires, diving into the inside of turn 13. And that's a textbook move. Probably the easiest move he's made this race. And Watanabe rounding the corner. And Giovinazzi pits too, so he must have had an issue with his car and his front wing, or maybe just tire wear. Watanabe sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so he's absolutely flying. And points could be on the cards. And now he's closing in on his teammate, Marino Sato. Sato, with doubts earlier on in the week of whether or not he will return to Toyota Racing next season. But he's really trying to defend his position. But this is not the time to be fighting with your teammate who's competing for points against AlphaTauri. But Marino Sato is making a statement at the wrong point in his career, as now side by side they go, and he's just hampering his team leader's position in this race. With the two AlphaTauris ahead, Sato is unknowingly helping. And now Sato really hindering his teammates' race, as now with DRS and ERS, this will surely be an easier move than when he tried to pull off the lap previous, as he goes around Sato, diving into the inside. And Sato, it's a good job that he's showing that he can fight with other drivers, but he's fighting the wrong drivers. Lap 26. 3 laps remaining in this race as Watanabe goes through turn 12. He goes, oh, he spins! The Toyota driver spins into the wall! How is that car still running? He managed to bring it back on the circuit, but that's definitely overheated the tires. And he's so lucky to be running this. His teammate passes him again. Here goes Watanabe through turn 11 into turn 12, and there you can see goes over the curb where you can definitely be caught out and puts a tire in the grass, and he just loses the back end. And how has he not destroyed the front wing or the rear suspension on that collision? That is just superb luck. There's nothing more to be said. And here's Sato seeing the cloud of smoke from the tires, and he passes his teammate who will just hobble home. Here on lap 28 now, and Valtteri Bottas steals the fastest lap away from Kato Watanabe. The Finn is absolutely flying. Is there smoke? Oh no! No, that's the hometown favorite, Daniel Ricciardo and his McLaren up in smoke. What a terrible way to end the race.
I have an issue. I got no drive.
Yeah, you'll have to switch it off, Daniel.
Oh no. Well, Kato Watanabe will be happy for the place, but he won't get any points out of it. And here he comes, the Finn. He's been called the number 2 at Mercedes. Well, he's number 1 now after so many years, since 2017, since he joined the team. He's not a wingman anymore. He's his own man, as Valtteri Bottas crosses the line and becomes 2021 champion of the world. And Kato Watanabe beaten by his teammate. This after the fairy tale that was Interlagos and the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's a snap back to reality as he finally loses to his teammate on track. And well, this is going to be a hard weekend to swallow for Watanabe. AlphaTauri don't gain points, but neither do they.
Yes! Brilliant! Well done!
It took quite a while, huh? More than 80 races.
It definitely was more than 80 races, but finally Valtteri Bottas can inscribe his name into Formula 1 history as he becomes a new world champion in this sport over his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who will have to wait until next year for record-breaking number 8. But his teammate comes home in second, having beaten Charles Leclerc, unable to make it up after the pit stops. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso really gaining places after his nightmare qualifying, and luckily for both Toyota drivers, none of the AlphaTauri score points. So this fight is going down to the wire to our finale in Abu Dhabi next time out. And well, look at that. There's 3 Japanese drivers back to back to back. Sato getting the bragging rights this weekend, but he definitely hindered his teammates' race in the later stages. But Watanabe's got no one to blame but himself for those mistakes that he made throughout the race, and he loses P10 as Carlos Sainz finishes well and is 1 point ahead of the Japanese driver after this race. And look at that. Look how close they are. 2 points separating P6. But even though the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship is finished, and Valtteri Bottas can finally have that championship trophy at the end of the year, well, there's still 1 race left. And there's a fight to be had for P6, and hopefully you'll join us then as Toyota goes against AlphaTauri. But congratulations to Valtteri Bottas and Mercedes. But that's it from us. Goodbye.